Time passed quickly. Scene changed to a small, old smithy. Zeke's carriage stopped here because this smithy is where the person he's interested in lives, looking at the familiar scene in front of him. The protagonist's eyes showed a hint of reminiscence. It's been a long time. Papne's breath. What a prestigious name for a smithy, he thought. Then he opened the door, went inside, and called out, "Is anyone home?" Inside the smithy, the scene was extremely messy, with countless pieces of armor scattered on the floor. On the table, a young man was drunk, along with his drinking cup. The radiant sword, it's a masterpiece forged by Galleon. He said it was the price for saving his life, worthy of the title of soul forger. It is known that he wreathed the soul of the blacksmith before forging weapons for them. Because he lives up to that reputation, creating swords with the ability I need most, the ability to replace radiant energy with ether. The greatest blacksmith on the continent forged that sword, but what's with his current state? Zeke curiously said, looking at the drunk Galleon in front of him. This man is the soul forger, Galleon Halbert. He noticed Zeke's presence and said in surprise, "What's this? A kid? This isn't a place for children to play. Get out." Returning to Zeke, he didn't respond but began to look around the room, furrowing his brow in displeasure. Although he's a very sentimental person, it's not to this extent. What happened to him before meeting me? Zeke wondered inwardly. Unable to accept the state of the blacksmith he chose, lying there drunk, Zeke immediately grabbed a large bucket of water and threw it directly at him, causing the young man's eyes to widen. Then Zeke greeted him with a smile. "You're awake. I want to know why you refused my request." In front of him, the young blacksmith, after being splashed with water, became a bit more sober. Then he noticed the dragon emblem on the protagonist's gloves, immediately recognizing his identity, and quickly bowed his head in apology. "House Draker, I apologize for showing such disrespect. Please forgive my rudeness, but currently I'm not accepting any requests. How can a wretch like me create what someone wants, when he himself can't even make what he wants?" Saying this, the young blacksmith trembled incessantly, looking helpless. Seeing his current state, Zeke seemed to see his former self. So even Galleon went through this stage. Thinking back, he was already the greatest blacksmith on the continent when I met him, and Galleon never told me about his past life. Perhaps he didn't want to share that shameful past. But I can't wait another 10 years for him to wake up, Zeke muttered inwardly. Meanwhile, Galleon was pulling his hair out, blaming himself. Why am I so useless? Can I even make weapons? A blacksmith can't make weapons. The more Galleon thought about it, the more his mind became blurry, until Zeke's loud shout woke him up. "Please forgive my rude behavior," Galleon hurriedly said, but Zeke didn't pay much attention, shaking his head. "Don't worry, I want to see some of your failed products." Hearing this, although Galleon was a little confused why Zeke requested this, he quickly led him away. "Let me show you to the back." Returning to Zeke, of course, the reason for requesting this from Galleon was because he wanted to see just how much Galleon's current skill level had deteriorated. Is there any other way I have to guide him to the right path himself? He thought to himself in his heart. Then the scene changed to the backyard of the smithy. This place was an empty lot with countless identical swords stuck on the ground. Looking at the messy scene in front of the Galleon, he also felt a little guilty and told the main character, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have left things so messy." "It's okay, you can say it's very attractive," Zeke nodded in response. Next, Zeke also went inside. He pulled out a sword from the garden. Carefully observing from behind, Galleon worriedly warned, "Sir, please be careful. Even if they're failed products, they're still very sharp." Zeke, however, found Galleon's warning unnecessary. How could he possibly be injured by these swords? After examining several swords, Zeke had a general idea of the weapon's quality. This one, and this one too, he thought. These aren't failed products. They're comparable to what I've forged, even considering I'm hailed as the greatest smith on the continent. Thinking this, Zeke wondered why Galleon considered them failures. To examine further, he used his dragon eye skill to observe the sword in his hand. Quickly, Zeke noticed some strange points. "As I thought," he muttered, "there's a problem with your smithy, isn't there?" Zeke's words caused Galleon's eyes to widen in surprise. "How did you know?" he quickly asked. Zeke didn't explain, instead continuing his examination of the sword. "I'm asking you," he said. "You've optimized your unique smelting style. haven't you? It seems you've added some different metals to create lighter and more delicate materials. But the durability is terrible. With that, Zeke swung the sword forcefully, then abruptly stopped. The sword shattered into countless pieces from the recoil. Zeke guessed the reason for the breakage. He muttered, "In cases like this, it's because impurities weren't properly removed during heat treatment." Galleon's perspective shifted back to Zeke. At this point, Galleon's face was dumbfounded. Zeke hadn't said a single incorrect word. It was all perfectly accurate. He had not only identified his smelting method but also pinpointed the errors and their causes. Perhaps this person can help me, he thought. This thought spurred the young smith. He clenched his fist and said with a slightly anxious tone, "Sir, this is, well, very coincidental, but I have a favor to ask." Zeke raised an eyebrow. "What is it?" To explain, they returned to Galleon's workshop. The smith took out a blueprint from a drawer and spread it out on the table for Zeke to examine. The moment Zeke saw the blueprint, with his future knowledge, he immediately recognized it. This is Ganon's secret, he thought, the blueprint for a magical furnace, the one he revealed years later. He remembered the moment when, in his past life, the smith had shared this information with him. Why keep it secret from someone who saved your life? This is a furnace whose temperature can be adjusted at will using magic. This is my secret, the smith said with a smile. Back in the present, knowing what it was, Zeke nodded in approval. "With this, your smelting method will work perfectly," he said. Galleon's eyes lit up with joy. "I knew you'd recognize it." Zeke then asked why Galleon hadn't built it despite having the complete blueprint. Galleon's smile vanished, and he explained bitterly, "The most crucial part of the blueprint, the spirit energy law, is there, but the cost to build the magical furnace is 10,000 gold coins." Zeke's face froze at the astronomical figure. To understand its value, a typical family of 4 had monthly living expenses of 10 gold coins. The furnace cost 1,000 times that. It took him 10 years to save up that much. Zeke sighed heavily. That price is absurd. The smith naturally understood that with his meager income from the tiny smithy, he wouldn't be able to save enough for the furnace in his lifetime. He placed all his hope on Zeke. "I have a favor to ask. You're a member of the Draker family and a genuine bloodline awakener. If you build this furnace for me, I will fulfill any request you make, free of charge and unconditionally, until my last breath," Galleon said with utmost sincerity. Zeke fell into contemplation. Even as a Draker and one of the 2 genuine bloodline awakeners of his generation, he couldn't afford such a large sum. "It would be feasible if I were the family's protector knight, but it's impossible for me, even as a genuine bloodline awakener, to receive 10,000 gold in support. But I can't give up on that radiant sword." His problem is the spirit energy law. A sudden spark ignited in Zeke's mind. He smiled faintly, rolled up the blueprint, and tucked it into his pocket. "All right, I accept. I can ask a mage I know for help. If there's a solution, I'll let you know, and stop drinking so much." Zeke waved his hand, but his steps were halted, because Galleon had hugged his leg and was crying like a child. Thank you so much. I'll serve you for life as my savior." He was so emotional that his tears and snot were all over Zeke's pants. "Oh my God, I know, stop it. I'll let you know when it's done," Zeke shouted. Time passed quickly. The scene shifted to the research building of the professors within the Draker Academy. Zeke was on his way to seek help from the mage Panon, inwardly grumbling about the mages from the Magic Tower. Why do those bastards at the Magic Tower charge so much? The structure looks simple enough. Panon's specialty was the spirit energy law design. Let's see, where's his lab? Zeke thought. Before he could stop, he heard the sound of a beating nearby. The sound came from an alleyway. It triggered some unpleasant memories in Zeke. In his past life, he had knelt down and begged Leon, "I'm sorry, it's all my fault, please." "I apologize, Mr. Leon, this lowly person dared to touch your body," Zeke said, forcing a smile. Leon responded by kicking him. "Excellent, Zeke. As a reward, I'll give you the chance to clean the ground you soiled." "Thank you, Leon," Zeke weakly replied. Remembering these memories, Zeke gnashed his teeth in anger. The scene shifted inside the alley. Leon was repeatedly punching someone, cursing, "You insect, you're an obstacle to others' existence, you wretch." Zeke saw this. The golden light reaction, unprecedented for a bloodline awakener, surfaced. Damn it, a surge of intense anger rose within him, and he kicked the bully in the head. To be defeated by that lowly wretch, it's unbearable, that surprise attack before the fight even began, but why does this lucky waste humiliate? I could have become a true awakened person, but thinking about it, Leon bit his lip so hard that it bled from anger. But at that moment, Zeke's voice rang out at the end of the alley. Found a replacement for me already, Zeke said with a smile. But after seeing who the bullied person was, Zeke's expression changed 180 degrees. I'll give you all 3 seconds to get on your knees. On the opposite side, Leon broke into a cold sweat when he saw Zeke. However, he gritted his teeth and said, "What's this? Your arrogance has gone through the roof since your supposed bloodline awakening. Zeke Draker, are you sure you've truly awakened?" Letting him finish, Zeke didn't want to waste words on this little dog. He coldly warned, "Shut your mouth, don't blame me if you don't kneel," his eyes icy. Leon's face paled, and he gasped in fear from the protagonist's aura. He began to feel an invisible pressure, causing him to sweat profusely. What kind of pressure is this? Just a few months ago, he ignored me, but now I'm scared. This thought ignited an invisible flame of anger within him, giving him the impetus to confront the protagonist. "You dare talk to me like that, you lowly scum, attack him," he roared at his lackeys. His loyal lackeys, unaware of Zeke's strength, happily charged towards him. And facing their attack, Zeke just sighed despondently at the stupidity of these people. "Now don't blame me." He leaned to the side, dodging a punch from one of the thugs. Before the thug could react, Zeke landed a punch square on his ugly face. The thug spat out blood and collapsed. He then unleashed an uppercut on the thug behind him, sending him spitting blood. At the same time, another student launched a punch at Zeke from above. But his arm was immediately caught. Zeke spun, slamming the thug's body into another. Then, he used a knee strike to the face of another thug, making his eyes roll back. And so, the pathetic group was mercilessly beaten by Zeke. Against such weaklings, he only needed one move to send them sprawling. Watching his lackeys fall so easily, Leon's face turned pale. "No way, this is really Zeke Draker," he wondered. Meanwhile, after dealing with the trash, Zeke turned to Leon. "No need to be afraid. I'm sure you know it'll only hurt for a moment," he said casually. Leon quickly drew his sword, trembling as he said, "Stay back, I'll cut you down if you get any closer." His trembling body betrayed his fear. From Zeke's perspective, watching Leon draw his sword, his eyes grew colder. "You really drew your sword outside the training grounds. Do you know what that means?" To confront the killing intent of Leon, who had drawn his sword outside the sacred training grounds. "I, Zeke Draker, will respond with my honor. This next battle will end with one of us dead. All responsibility lies with ourselves. Neither opponent bears any responsibility for the outcome." "Liam Stone, you'll be the witness. Let's continue," Zeke said, a hint of excitement in his voice as the foolish Leon had given him the chance to finish him once and for all. Before the protagonist could act, Leon was so scared he wet his pants. He dropped his sword and begged for mercy. "I'm sorry, Sir Zeke Draker. Please let me live. Please spare me." He trembled. He begged pitifully. Zeke didn't bother taking his life. Instead, he swung his sword, grazing Leon's left ear, causing Leon to cry out in pain and clutch his ear. Zeke sheathed his sword, grabbed Leon's hair, and warned, "I'll take your other ear next time we meet. If it's reattached, I'll take your head." He then forced Leon's face into the ground, letting him experience the taste of dirt, just like he had in his past life. After that, Zeke shrugged and walked away as if nothing had happened. Turning to Liam, before leaving, he saw Liam struggle to his feet and ask, "Why did you help me?" The protagonist smiled faintly. "Don't think about it. I wasn't helping you. I was helping myself," Zeke whispered, officially bidding farewell to his weak past self. After leaving the alley, Zeke scratched his head. "Goodness, Galleon's influence. I almost said something embarrassing," he thought. Time passed. The scene shifts to the laboratory of the mage Panin. Zeke met him and showed him the Galleon design. "Professor, is this feasible?" Zeke asked. After examining it, Panin replied, "To be frank, it's feasible." Zeke's eyes lit up. Really, I want to entrust it to you, he said excitedly. However, things weren't that simple. Panin cautioned. Hold on, I think it's better if you let me explain first. As you said, the overall structure is simple. However, the core, responsible for power output, the heart of the machine, has incredibly problematic pathways. While it might be small, it requires sufficient power, and we need a way to regulate the output without delay. This is unprecedented, he said, pointing to the blueprint. Zeke's smile faded as he asked, It's feasible, right? There are two options. Depending on the core's condition, I can personally adjust your design, but it will take at least a decade to rework the core design. No way, 15 years, Zeke exclaimed. That's a significant amount of time. The second method, we can bypass the core design and use similar materials. This would save a lot of time, though. The raw material needed is a highly compressed spirit stone. Listen to what he said. Zeke was so excited that he couldn't sit still in his chair anymore. Isn't that an ancient treasure that cannot be created with current technology? On the other side, Professor Panin also calmly replied that it is true, an ancient treasure that is inherently rare. However, searching for artifacts in ruins is even harder. To find a spirit stone that can withstand our design will cost over 3,000 gold. In short, to be quick, it's all about money. After Zeke heard this, all the life seemed to drain from him. I might be expelled if someone discovers I can't use ether, but 15 years is too long. But 3,000 gold is an astronomical number. I'm going crazy. I can't give up the Halo sword. Most people think I'm an ether user because of what happened at the blessing ceremony, but it was just a reaction from my healing skill. In reality, I still can't use ether. It's considered a power difficult for humans to control. However, aside from the spirit sense skill of the primal spirit that my master taught me, I can't use any sword techniques that utilize ether. With that skill, I can only enhance and swing my whole body. Compared to others, ether is much easier to use and more versatile. That's why I need the Halo sword. Damn it, how am I going to find a high compression spirit stone? The more Zeke thought about it, the darker his future seemed. As if not noticing his expression, the mage Panin was examining the blueprints again, praising them. Incidentally, the creator of these blueprints is extraordinary. Even considering the complex core, it's a superior design. It would be difficult to create, even in Golden Age artifacts. Turning to Zeke, Panin's words caused his body to suddenly tremble. Then his eyes lit up. Golden Age artifacts, why didn't I think of that before? Zeke smiled, as if he'd thought of something. And in order not to waste time, he immediately stood up and asked the professor for permission to preserve the design until I returned, and the professor heard what I said. Professor Panin also turned to look at Zeke like he was an idiot. What do you mean? You said I spent 15 years perfecting it. How can I answer the question? Of course Zeke wouldn't be stupid to choose such a time-consuming method. Of course not. I'll bring a high-compression spirit stone, Zeke confidently declared, as if he already knew where he had to find it. The Golden Age was the era of the Liberation War, fought to escape the dominion of dragons. That era ended with the defeat of the evil dragon Bahamut. The one who defeated him was Tarakin Draker, the first patriarch of the Draker family. This brought humanity a century of peace. During that time, many ancient artifacts were discovered in the dragon's lair, relics from the Arthurian era of the Hero King, the peak era of magic. All the discovered artifacts possessed technology and magic far surpassing modern standards. Among them was a high-compression spirit stone, containing the vital energy to sustain an entire village, a treasure from the Hero King's era. Scene change. The Central Library of the Draker Academy. Though rarely used, the Central Library is maintained because it's believed to have been founded by Tarakin himself. During the expansion of the archive, Golden Age artifacts were discovered. This led to the involvement of the Magic Tower and the Archmage Nirvana, a member of the three great families, in the excavation. In those days, countless Golden Age artifacts were discovered, and news of it would spread through the continental press, or at least that's what would happen in 10 years. But currently, no one has discovered or even realized the existence of these artifacts. Zeke thought this as he began wandering around the archive. However, after pacing back and forth, he sighed. I could search all day and still not find it. I'm out of options. He activated his dragon eye skill to search for more clues. And sure enough, the Longan did not disappoint him at all after using this skill. And after looking around a bit, Zeke discovered a tile with a strange red light. The protagonist ran over and tapped it to check. There it is, it sounds hollow when tapped, that's it. Thinking this, without waiting a second longer, Zeke used his power, the spirit sense of the primal spirit, the only way he knew to apply ether from the skill his master had taught him. Since ether materializes the user's will, applying certain attributes like cutting and using it in various situations is possible. However, it has a limitation. The user must expend a certain amount of energy to perform any action. At this moment, the energy blade in Zeke's hand allowed him to easily cut through the tile. However, after doing this, he was drenched in sweat from exertion. It seems using this is still too much for me right now, Zeke muttered. Then he gently lifted the tile, crawled underneath, and replaced the tile to avoid detection. Below was a dark, underground palace, forcing Zeke to use a torch to light his way. As he walked, he mumbled, "The newspaper didn't say it was this deep." His words had barely left his mouth when he suddenly heard someone's footsteps, making Zeke jump. He quickly extinguished the torch, then, he carefully listened to the sounds approaching and silently thought, it'll be at least another decade before anyone discovers these ruins. Could someone have found it already? Zeke slowly poked his head out to observe. 2 skeletons holding shovels and picks met his gaze. Ah, they're holding shovels and picks. Okay, it seems they weren't created by liches. If that's the case, this will be easy. Zeke thought, then took his sword from his inventory and activated the skill. The fatal blow rushed straight towards these 2 skeletons, and within just a second he easily cut off the head of the skeleton holding the country. Next, he also made a sword slash to split the skeleton in 2, and immediately after destroying these 2 monsters. After that, a notification screen appeared in front of him. Because you defeated 2 skeletons, you received 2 karma points. The karma points are currently 22. Looking at the words, Zeke felt like he discovered another treasure trove. Right, I can get points from defeating monsters. I completely forgot because I was so focused on the artifact. Isn't this the best way to farm points? Let's go get those sweet karma points, Zeke excitedly said, taking his sword to find more adorable skeletons and send them to the afterlife. What Zeke loved most about these monsters was how incredibly weak they were. They provided karma points without any danger. Zeke comfortably began collecting karma points, pondering how to use them. It was easy. I need to examine this more closely. I might find something to unlock with points. The beginner's quest book is 45 karma points. The mini-map is 20 karma points. Dragon Eye, Swallowing Technique, and the locked level 2 skills all require 50 points. Looking at the current price, I could only buy the mini-map, so I thought so. He activated the mini-map function, and immediately after that, a simulated screen displaying a miniature map of the area, looking at the red dot representing your current location. Zeke quickly understood how to use it. It seemed similar to the magic map, he thought. Zeke's eyes were also a bit surprised and noticed an area in the corner of the map. What is this? He asked himself a question and reached out to touch this area. Next, the system immediately converted the miniature map from 2D to 3D for him to see. Looking at the Zeke system's ability to flexibly change like this, he couldn't help but give it a great like. This is exactly what I want, he excitedly shouted. Before his eyes turned to a room with red light, but why was that room the only one with a different color? As he said that, he raised his hand to touch this room and the system issued a request message. Do you want directions to the selected location of the storage room? Looking at this notice, Zeke's eyes also widened as he went to the storage room. In the past, it took the search team many days to find this place, but now I can find its location so easily. After thinking, Zeke didn't hesitate to press the confirm button. The system responded, "We will now provide the fastest route to your designated location." A 3D map instantly appeared before Zeke, automatically drawing a path to the room. He couldn't help but shout joyfully, "Unbelievable! With this, there's no way I can get lost." Following the map's directions, Zeke arrived before a massive door. I must be here, but how do I get inside? It won't open just by waiting, he said, frowning and reaching out to touch the door. This giant door, and the moment his hand touched it, there was suddenly some kind of magic above the door activated, sending his hand flying outside. Seeing this, Zeke recognized it, a beast protection spell. The reason why the Magic Tower and the Great Mage Nirvana are related must be because of this door. If it weren't for the gloves, I probably would have lost this hand. I can't break this spell, system, can't you open it for me? Zeke asked, venting his frustration, unexpectedly. The system actually responded, we've received the administrator's request, we'll connect to the security device, automatic deactivation of the security spell failed, we'll now switch to manual activation. Without time to dwell on the door, Zeke hurriedly asked, wait, you're responding to what I just said? Correct, any further requests, Administrator Zeke Draker? The system's confirmation left Zeke speechless for a moment. He never thought he could talk to the system. After a few seconds to regain his composure, Zeke asked his most pressing question, if that's so, why was I forced to reincarnate? I cannot answer that question, the system replied. Zeke asked another question, then what is this administrator system? I cannot answer that question. Then who created you? I cannot answer that question. Any further requests, Administrator Zeke Draker? Back to Zeke, the system's continuous I cannot answer was infuriating. Damn it, I didn't get any answers to my important questions, Zeke sighed. He then requested the system to open the door. We have confirmed the administrator's request. The Dragon Slayer's tomb, the storage room, has been opened. Following the notification, the massive door rumbled and slowly opened. Behind the door was a huge room with countless wooden chests neatly arranged on shelves. Seeing the wooden chests, Zeke's eyes widened. Treasure chests, treasure chests. As the name suggests, this is a room filled with valuable treasures and riches. Finding just one treasure would be a miracle. To verify his guess, Zeke opened the nearest chest. He wasn't disappointed. Inside were various jewels and ivory radiating brilliant light, almost blinding him. There are hundreds of treasure chests like this. He excitedly began opening all the remaining chests, quickly gathering the valuables. I'll take this one. Oh, this one looks good too. I'll give this to Panon. Finally found them, for top-tier spirit stones. Even better, I'll use a point to expand my storage by 4 slots, but I still don't have enough space for everything. Looks like I'll have to come back here often until graduation, Zeke muttered, putting the valuable treasures into his inventory. Having finished, he stood up to leave. That's enough for today, he muttered. But at that moment, he immediately felt an unusual aura appearing in the room. This creepy feeling made him turn around in surprise. What is that? Zeke frowned in thought and raised his hand. Touch the wall to check immediately. A mutation happened when a complex magic circle suddenly appeared under his feet just a second later. This formation activated and teleported him somewhere. Then wait until you appear again. Then Zeke immediately discovered that he was also inside a warehouse, saw that he was suddenly teleported, looked around cautiously and asked the system where this was. The system quickly replied, Administrator, you are currently inside the Dragon Slayer's sanctuary. Back to Zeke. Since the room seemed harmless, he lowered his guard and thought about his past life's knowledge. The Dragon Slayer's sanctuary, the news didn't mention a room full of chests in my past life. He opened his mini-map to check his location and silently pondered. As expected, it wasn't far from the previous location, but there was no path leading to the Dragon Slayer's sanctuary. If that's the case, this must be an undiscovered location from my past life. I can't miss this. Zeke thought excitedly and then pushed aside a lid of a stone coffin inside the room. Revealing inside is a full-body armor set. At the same time, the system also issues a notification reminding the Dragon Slayer's exclusive equipment that it has been discovered. Intrigued, Zeke lifted the armor, examining it. Dragon Slayer's exclusive equipment, it certainly doesn't look like any armor from the Golden Age I know, he muttered. Before long, he discovered a hole at the back of the neck, seemingly designed for inserting something. Then, an idea struck Zeke. He took out a magic compressed stone from his inventory. Wait a minute, could it be? But I can't just leave it like this, he said, trying to insert the stone into the hole, and indeed. His hunch was absolutely correct. At this moment, the battery began to release intense energy to activate the aura armor that had been installed in the Dragon Slayer's exclusive equipment to activate the equipment. As the notification appeared, the armor's eyes suddenly lit up, then its body automatically sprang up, much to Zeke's surprise. To ensure his safety, He took a few steps back, then. Inexplicably, the armor suddenly exploded, equipment malfunction due to overload, activation failed, a small explosion is expected, please evacuate immediately. The panicked system issued a warning, but by the time it did, the armor had already exploded, it's already blown up, Zeke muttered, apologetically to the system. Putting that aside, Zeke was astonished by the armor, so a high-compression spirit stone was only the power source. What functions could possibly require such immense power? I'll ask Pannon later, let's explore this place first. With that, Zeke began exploring the warehouse, but found nothing. The other rooms were empty. This is the last one, Zeke mumbled, his eyes falling on a spacious room with a glass cage in the center. Just a glass cage in the entire room, Zeke sighed in disappointment, at least compared to that treasure room, this one's fit for a beggar, he thought. Until the system issued a notification, you have discovered the legacy of Terrakin Draker, the cursed heart of the evil dragon Bahamut. Without a single clue, sweat poured down Zeke's face. Terkandrasir, that man's insane. Leaving the heart of the dragon he slew as a legacy. So that chilling feeling I sensed in the warehouse earlier, this is it, but it feels different now, Zeke sighed. Unaware that the strange aura he felt was intensifying and beginning to affect him. The cursed heart of the evil dragon Bahamut reacted to the administrator, returning to Zeke, the black dragon's aura began to warp his thoughts. I hear you, there's no other choice, I'll kill them all, a strange thought crept into Zeke's mind. But at that moment, the system activated the unwavering mental defense skill. Zeke's eyes cleared, and he immediately realized that he was surrounded by an evil black aura. What the hell is this? He shouted. And for the first time, the system gave him a quest, sudden quest, Terrakin Draker's trial, overcome the powerful curse on Bahamut's heart, reward, ownership of Terrakin's legacy. Back to Zeke, one of his eyes was now black, affected by the evil dragon, and even though the system tried activating the unwavering mental defense skill, it failed. Now Zeke had to fight the aura's influence alone. Countless voices in his head urged him to destroy everything, causing his head to throb violently. To stop it, Zeke slammed his head against the glass cage. Shattering the cage, "You incessant babbling is annoying," he muttered. "You call that freedom? Freedom is something you take," the protagonist sneered, blood streaming down his face. With that action, the strange aura ceased its assault. "You have overcome the curse of Bahamut's cursed heart. The sudden quest is complete. The reward, ownership of Terrakin's legacy, has been acquired." The system notification appeared, the glass cage shattered, revealing a burning heart. Without time to react, Zeke collapsed, gasping for breath. "Damn it, I almost died. I can't believe my skill failed," he wondered. While he was still lost in thought, the system automatically activated skills, self-healing activated, limitless strength activated, absorbing Bahamut's cursed heart. The dragon's heart suddenly pulsed, emitting a beam of light towards Zeke's chest, inflicting agonizing pain as if his body was being torn apart. What the hell is this? Pure, concentrated spiritual energy was flowing into him, but he had no spirit ring to receive it. The immense spiritual energy, having nowhere to go, was destroying his body. I have to do something, Zeke reminded himself, then. Gritting his teeth, he endured the pain and used his soul-body ultimate skill, sealing the spiritual energy within his ether. Seal it within the ether space, Zeke thought, focusing all his ether energy to seal the massive amount of spiritual energy. Then a huge explosion occurred where he stood. Smoke billowed. Through the smoke, Zeke was unharmed, but the intense energy continued to ravage his body. After a few seconds, the intense energy finally subsided. Only then could Zeke breathe a sigh of relief. I'm still alive. He looked at the devastated surroundings. The heart's gone. So that spiritual energy belonged to Bahamut, the protagonist concluded. At that moment, in the reflection of a shard of glass, Zeke saw a tattoo of the evil dragon on his chest. He couldn't help but touch it, muttering, "This is because I sealed Bahamut's spiritual energy." As soon as he spoke, countless system notifications appeared. Absorbed spiritual energy has refined the administrator's body, the administrator's physique has transformed into heavenly bone body, detected power beyond the administrator's capacity to handle, 95% of the power compressed and sealed. As the heir, you gain access to Terrakin Draker's secure archives, activating beginner-level quest, providing guidance for low-level administrators. Back to Zeke, overwhelmed by the new information, heavenly bone body, Terrakin Draker's secure archives, a beginner quest, another heap of bizarre things. I'll look at it later. For now, let's just forget it. Zeke waved his hand dismissively. Saying that, but at this moment, another screen suddenly appeared, causing his eyes to change. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, leave this. My ancestor is really generous. He stroked his chin and said with a face full of cunning because the message in front of him was, do you want to open another legacy of Terrakin Draker?